Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Teacher's Mind. In today's episode, we're going beyond the board in teaching that connects. I'm thrilled to be here with my fellow colleagues, Melany Roque, Anabel Arichavala, and Amanda Maldonado. So we're all 7th semester students at the Pine major in Universidad Nacional de Educación, and today's episode is all about those practical classroom strategies that help us move beyond theory into a more powerful and effective teaching. Okay, so we're going to explore some tools like timelines, correct board use, instruction and concept checking questions, feedback, and monitoring. Okay, and we're going to see how this can help us transform the way we teach and the way students learn. Okay, so I want to start with timelines, which is one of my personal favorites, because I remember that back when I was doing practicum as a teaching assistant, I had a really hard time explaining the past perfect. But then until I drew a simple line on the board, and that helped the students understand how an action happens before another one in the past. And this visual aid did what my words couldn't. As Harmer mentions, that visual support is crucial for learners, right? To internalize some abstract concepts such as grammar. And he's right. Those timelines make time actually visible.
Yes, they are like a visual anchors for me, I guess, because you can contextualize, you can express what you need to transmit in your classes. For example, I use timelines when I was teaching vocabulary and grammar. For example, when I was teaching past continue, I draw timelines with interrupt actions, and my students clicked, and they understand the topic immediately.
So you get those kind of
Yes,
reaction, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and it was exciting for you because you know, yes, my students are learning.
So yeah, it's this sense of knowing that your students are learning something, are actually understanding the topic that you are teaching, right? And
Yes.
I have a similar anecdote because I once used a timeline to compare conditionals. It were the second and the third conditionals, and it was like a game changer, and from there it naturally leads into word use. And Melany, I think you're amazing with word work, and I have a question for you. How do you use it beyond just writing?
Well, thanks, Amanda. I think these board use is something that I really like and really have research about. And well, I don't use the board just as a note, but I use it like a map for students.
Oh, okay.
For example, I have some fixed sections. In the top right, I have vocabulary. In the left, I have grammar structures. But the center is mainly for a spontaneous idea that the students came up with. And this is related with Scrivener, something that Scrivener emphasized before, the importance and the importance of organizing the ideas on the board.
Yes, you need to know how you are going to use your board.
Yeah, actually, that's something that
because it's your space.
Yeah.
And that makes so much sense because I've noticed when the board is organized, the students actually look back to it, right? But if the board is like clustered and full of things, then the students tend to ignore it, right? And
yeah,
it
it's
becomes
like
just
they don't even understand
Yeah.
what's written on it, so they just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The structure board becomes like a silent assistant for you in your classrooms, and when it's interactive, like when students come up and then they are going to write their ideas or maybe correct mistakes, and it becomes even more engaging in the topic that you are teaching.
Yeah.
For sure.
Totally. I think even if it's such a simple tool, when you use it with intention, the board becomes a powerful assistant, right? So it goes beyond the board, but actually through it, right?
Yes.
Well, now let's move into something that might sound simple, but it is actually a really powerful tool. Do you guys maybe know what I'm talking about? Any idea? Maybe it has to do with questions. Okay.
Oh, those questions are like, it could be like maybe ICQs and CCQs.
Yeah, exactly. Do you guys know what ICQs and CCQs are, right?
Of course, we as teachers must know what those are about.
Yeah, the instruction and the concept checking questions.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are such powerful tools for learning, especially when it comes to understanding. Okay, instructions and concepts, right? So Melany, I have seen you using these kind of questions pretty well. So can you walk us through the difference?
Well, I tend to use ICQs and CCQs a lot in my classes, and ICQs are mostly used to make sure students understand what the task is about.
So
And
they clearly know what to do, right?
yeah, sure. It's not a, and let me remark that I'm not talking about the concept, the topic that I'm like teaching. It's just the task.
It's
So
really the task.
Maybe it can be used for activities, right?
yeah, the activities mostly.
Mhm.
So instead of just asking the students, do you understand this guy? They're mostly going to say yes, right?
All the time.
All the time. It happens all the time. And I will ask something like, are you working alone or in pairs? Are you what tense are you using in this task? And they have to answer with something specific, so they are thinking about it. So this, as Scrivener mentioned, this ensures the students comprehend completely the task, and we avoid wasting time with the activities itself.
Yes, I agree with you, Melanie. I think that do you understand always get yes, like an answer.
Yeah.
Yes, in your students.
It always happens.
Yeah. So I think you need to change the CCQs to ensure that your students are understanding the meaning of the concept, the words that you are teaching. For example, if I am teaching maybe a new vocabulary, a new word, for example, exhausted, you can reinforce the meaning of the word, like I don't know, like mimicas. Do you know?
Mimics.
Mimics,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Maybe
I use that a
asking
lot.
questions
Yes.
also.
Yes, or maybe with roles,
Mm.
or maybe follow sentences, creating sentences.
Yeah, drawings are a good option because some students don't like to write. So
Especially for visual learners, right?
But
Sure.
in this
Yes.
case, for teaching exhausted, which question will be like an appropriate one for teaching this word? Do you have maybe an idea? Which question can we use?
Yes, maybe you can use questions of the previous example that I said. If you are teaching the word exhausted, maybe you can ask if I am exhausted, do I have a lot of energy or no energy? Which is the best option?
that's really specific.
Yeah.
That will
Yeah.
help them.
And it's like not biased.
Yes. So that makes them the process of the work, not just recognizing it. Thornberry states that CCQs force learners to engage with meaning in a contextualized way.
Yeah, and designing CCQs and ICQs questions isn't always right. Isn't always easy, sorry, right? Because when I remember one time when I was planning micro teaching, I had to use those CC questions and ICQs, and at first when I was planning the micro teaching, I was thinking that when I'm giving the class, the ICQs will like appear magically in my mind, but
It doesn't happen.
yeah. I mean, it is more complex than I thought, And in that moment, I've learned the hard way that you have to keep them short and use language students already know.
So like you're looking for something really specific, right?
Exactly. And also with vocabulary, because if you use a level of English that your students are not familiarized with, they are going to confuse. So they are not going to understand you. And I think that when we make them too complex, the questions totally lose their purpose. And as you also points that overly complicated questions can be more confusing than helpful, and I really think it's true.
Yeah, that will make it more difficult even for them.
Yeah, totally. Because when you said that you expect the questions to come up like magically, I also remember that I did the same thing, but I've started planning my SQs and CCQs with time, okay, before the class. And one trick that I use is avoiding those typical yes/no questions, because as Amanda mentioned, that defeats the whole purpose of the ICQs and CCQs, right? So instead of that, I use questions that are short but look for something really specific, like so the students foster their critical thinking, right?
Yep.
So that's a great habit. Actually, something that I will add for that is to anticipate what they might get confused. Like, we have been teachers for a decent amount of time, so I would say that we kind of know where they might get confused. So yeah, where they struggle the most. So for example, if I have an activity that has 2 questions, and I know that maybe the second question is really difficult for them because it's something challenging, so I will have prepared something really specific and simple for them to get used to the tense and what we're doing.
Because at the end of the day, we want to make teaching simple as we can, right?
Yeah.
Something similar that Melany said was in my classroom, and I noticed that when I was using CCQs, well structured obviously, students not only understand better, but they also remember better, and they was interacting each other, interacting with me, and that was exciting because we as a teacher,
that's almost even rewarding.
Yeah.
When we know that they actually are understanding.
a
Yeah.
topic, right?
Yes.
It's like
And I think that confident is key here, because if the students know what to do, and that means that they're more willing to take risks, right?
Sure.
And they're more willing to also participate.
Yeah.
So that confidence comes directly from the clarity of our instructional concepts.
Yeah, it's totally true. I think that well-structured questions lead to better learning and fewer interruptions later, because when you ask just yes/no questions and your students answer yes, then after a while they will ask you again, teacher, but how many time do we have, and or what was this topic about? So if you're like running out of time, those questions that the students are making, like
It saves you time.
it's
It's really powerful.
uh-huh.
Okay. To wrap up the ICQs and CCQs matter, I want to recommend our audience to read a book. And this book is How to Make Good CCQs by Sandy Millen. They will find, I'm sure they will find useful tips to effectively apply these questions in class.
I read that and it's really interesting. The
Yeah.
viewers should totally try it.
Totally recommended, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on because I want to go over 2 specific strategies that shape learning in the long run, okay? And these are feedback and monitoring. Because these aren't just about fixing mistakes, they're about building learning autonomy. And what do we mean by that? That they become more independent, right? And so I want to ask you, What does effective feedback look like to you?
Well, for me, effective feedback is timely, focused, and also supportive. I mean, it's not just about correcting everything, but also about highlighting one or two key areas that can actually help students to improve.
And I think you said support, and this is a key word in this kind of situation, because as you say, it is not just about correcting, but helping them improve, right?
Exactly. And here I would like to quote two researchers that I found really interesting, and they said that, oh well, they emphasized that feedback should answer three questions: where am I going, how am I going, and what's next. So since I read this article, I always keep these three questions in my mind.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because in that way we kind of know how to approach the students
Exactly.
and make sure they are not scared. Like, let's say I'm doing a task on past perfect. So if I say no, this and this and this item are totally wrong, they might be afraid of me, because that they could consider that even rude.
And we don't want that in class, right?
Yeah, we don't want
We
that.
don't want that kind of fear, of
Yeah.
fearness that some students feel.
We don't want to create that kind of environment. That's not our outcome. So instead of saying you're wrong in this, I would say, remember that when we are checking the past perfect, you need to use past participle when we are referring to an action that happened before another one. So um, also, something that I use in the classroom almost in a daily basis is peer feedback. It's like students have a partner, right? Mostly their best friends, and they are chit chatting in the class, and I don't get mad about it, because they might be doing the activity.
Yeah, because even if they spend some time, like, you know, spilling the tea on some topics, uh, they're learning at the end of the day. So,
Yeah. It's normal actually to
Yeah.
talk while doing it.
and that interaction is actually helpful.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, one thing I've learned is balance. It's to balance positive reinforcements with corrections. It highlights what they did first, or maybe it creates a safe place in the classroom uh, where students feel comfortable each other, and they feel,
Confident
yes,
also?
confident. So according to Harmer, feedback should support um, the emotional as well as the linguistic development of learners.
Yeah, for sure.
And I
We
think
will totally combine that.
Yeah.
Because as I said, the like, if you have someone that you trust enough to tell your secrets, you probably will be confident enough to say, "Hey, I don't understand this. Please explain
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
Instead of asking the teacher, maybe,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I agree completely, because feedback doesn't exist by itself, right? It is actually tightly connected to monitoring. So when we monitor effectively, we can give better feedback, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's totally linked.
Yep.
We cannot have one and don't have the other one.
yeah, so I have another question, which is how do you approach monitoring during the class, during activities?
Sorry. Under my experience, I think I treat monitoring as a form of real-time assessment. I don't just work around. I listen, I observe, I take notes,
Yeah,
because
and
it's
that's
very
sorry,
important.
and that's exactly what we need to do, because if we are just walking around, it will be very helpful, even for us, not just for a student, but even for us. So we have maybe to take some notes, listen, actually listen what they are saying, what they are talking about.
Yeah,
So-
that's something that I wanted to mention. when we want to, while monitoring, we can like kind of categorize what students are doing. Let's say one of them is really, oh, I don't understand this, but the other one is like, this is so easy. Yeah. I want more. So in that way, we differentiate what kind of students are ready for more challenges. Don't you think?
Yes, I think that at the moment that your students are working in groups, you are going to listen a lot of things, and you are maybe you don't remember all the things that you listened at the end of the activity. So it's very fundamental that you take notes, and maybe if your student you hear your student mispronounce a word, you need to make a note and then address this challenge
Yeah, for sure.
after the class, after the activity.
Yeah, and another thing that I would like to highlight is that when the students feel appreciated, I mean, if they feel that the teacher is actually seeing them, they will feel that we actually care for their learning, right? And this build trust, and trust build motivation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I totally agree with you guys, but well, feedback is not just about catching mistake or monitoring. I would say it's not just about catching mistakes. It's about supporting learning. Um, I've used monitoring to decide whether to extend a task, uh, cut it short, or even do a mini review right on the spot. Because sometimes if we don't do monitoring, it it could be like useless at the end of the class.
Yep. Now that you mention monitoring right on the spot, I think we should also try to avoid like this reactive monitoring, because we don't want to get feedback just when they make mistakes, right? But we also want to reinforce their learning, and
Yeah,
also to
maybe
praise.
no, it's like just pointing out this is wrong, but maybe if we notice that some students have kind of the same mistake, we can go back to the front and say, this part you should complete it like this. This topic is used in this way, and they don't feel like
Attacked.
specifically addressed.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, so now that we have seen ICQs, CCQs, monitoring, feedback, timelines, and all these powerful strategies that we could use to make our learning better, I want us to discuss how these strategies support core areas like vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and motivation as well. Okay, so who would like to start?
I think when teaching vocabulary, CCQs are essential to teach that, because you can because your students can understand deeply the meaning, maybe the form and how you use that words that you are teaching. And also I use timelines, because when you introducing new phrasal verbs or maybe new reference, you can use that like visual support for your students.
I think it's especially useful for grammar, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can be, as we said before, an abstract concept, and this visual aid help the students.
And in that way, we can like compare it to Spanish, so it would make it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, as you said, Ricardo, for grammar, timelines are my best friends. When students see how tenses functions, especially talking about past perfect or future continuous, it clicks. And I also use the board to contrast structures. For instance, writing she was reading next to she read, and asking CCQs like which happened first really helps. And according to Larson, grammar should be taught as form, meaning, and use strategies like this help integrate all these three things.
And I think contextualization is key, because if you give them like real life examples, then they will feel that connection. Right?
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. I am more familiar with pronunciation, and that's when I use I use monitoring all the time, but for pronunciation, monitor is really key. I mean, during pair work, I like walk around and listen to common issues, and maybe word stress and the correct use of structures. In that way, I can address the mistakes during feedback without like remarking you did this wrong or you didn't pronounce this correctly.
But you can make like a general correction, right?
Yeah, and something that I also use is the IPA transcription.
System.
Yeah, it really helps them when they are struggling with specific words.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about motivation, because when students feel support through clear instructions and constructive feedback and visible progress on the board, they are more likely to stay engaged in the class. And
Because they have like a tangible outcome, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think that feedback especially improves motivation when it's specific and growth oriented. Telling a student you're getting better at using connectors is always more motivating than just making good on a paper.
Yeah, something related to that is ICQs. I think they can sometimes reduce anxiety because they are confident in what they're doing, and in that way they will be willing to take more risk, right?
And I think all these tools improve their motivation in general, right? So all these techniques aren't isolated, because we need to combine them. If we combine them in a thoughtful way, we can create a classroom that's not only effective but also human-centered, right? Because we should always take into account that the center of our class are our students, right?
Yeah, that's why it's very difficult to be a teacher, right?
Yeah,
because we have to take all these things into account and make sure that real learning is happening.
Yep.
Exactly, and I think that this kind of techniques makes all the difference.
So as we wrap up, I think it's clear that all these classroom strategies that we have seen, like timelines, board use, ICQs, CCQs, feedback and monitoring, are more than just techniques. They are what connect us to our students, and they also help establish this connection with the language, right? So why don't we share a quick reflection to wrap it up?
Okay, I would like that share that I've realized that clarity and responsiveness are key. I mean, the more I anticipate confusion and respond with empathy through good instructions, clear boards, or supportive feedback, the better my students perform, you know? And I really think that these strategies give us the tools to be intentional, not just reactive.
Yeah, because that's what we have been trying to avoid.
yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's really powerful. But for me, I would say is the idea of presence. Like when we are monitoring, giving feedback, or even asking ICQs or CCQs, it's like we are with the students and not just in front of them, like lecturing them. And I think these persons make them feel safe, and in that way we will the rapport that they need to actually learn something.
I
Yeah.
think that having a good presence.
Okay, yeah. See, uh, actually, I realized that small things maybe make a huge big difference in the classrooms. Things like the way we wrote in the board, or how you address feedback, or maybe how you questions that you ask your students, maybe help students succeed, yes, but they also make us better teachers.
Yeah, that's a good approach actually.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful thought, and because as future educators, we're learning as well, right? We're learning that we don't have all the answers, but
I think, and even if we are still students, when we are teachers, we are going to also be learning something. It's not like if we end or finish our major, we are going to stop our learning. We are going to keep learning through the years.
yeah, I think we want to be more reflective in our teaching process, right? So thank you guys. I hope that you enjoy your time here. And well, as we said before, we're seventh semester students from the PAIN major at the Universidad Nacional de Educación, and this was getting inside the teacher's mind. Okay, so see you in the next opportunity. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.